So we have got some breaking news for you this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Reform UK have won the Runcorn by-election by 6 votes. It's an incredible victory. It signals what I'm saying to you is a shift in the politics of this country. It is the first real sign that the two-party system, the uni-party, as some Reform voters would put it, has been trashed completely and utterly. Labour have been subject of a collapse, basically, in Runcorn. Chloe Dobbs is here. I think you were telling me, Chloe, that the vote last time round for Mike Amesbury in the Labour Party was close to 15,000. They appear to have lost about 3,000 or 4,000 from that, and the winning number, I think, for Reform is around about 12,000. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Sarah Pochin, 12,645. The Labour Party candidate, 12,639. So they've lost about 3,000 votes. So it'd be interesting to see where the other votes have come from. And the turnout, 46%, which is not bad for a by-election in the middle of a parliament.
Yeah, I think that there's been a pretty big swing here in that in the last election you had Mike Amesbury getting about 22,000 votes versus the Reform candidate was second last time but only had about 7,000 votes. Right. I think that what this shows us is that Reform can very much steal votes from the Labour Party. Yes. When we've had YouGov breakdowns of where exactly Reform is gaining from in the polls, it has generally said that Reform is gaining most of their support from people leaving the Conservative Party. But what this absolutely shows is that they can take voters from Labour. They are not a far-right party that only people on the right are going to be interested in. Having concerns about things like immigration numbers being too high and the impacts that has on NHS places, housing and whatnot is something that across the board, left and right, people are going to be concerned about that. I don't think they realise that in number 10.
No, but what's also interesting about some of these numbers, 942 was what the Lib Dems got on this particular by-election. Last time around, Chris Rowe, the Democrat candidate, Lib Dem Democrat, 2,100 votes. So they've actually lost more than half of their voters. I bet Ed Davey's not going to be too happy over that when he wakes up this morning, because it turns out that Lib Dem voters have actually gone to Reform by the looks of it. Greens similarly went from 2,715 down to 2,300, so they've lost about 400 votes as well, which is about a fifth of their vote. So the thing about Reform, and this is where I think the parties, the old-fashioned parties, are scared, is that they're taking votes from everywhere. They're not just taking them from the Tories, they're not just taking them from Labour, they're taking them from the Lib Dems, they're taking them from the Greens. And this is a massive, massive wake-up call to Westminster and to the two-party system, I think. Absolutely,
and I think that the Lib Dems are going to be quite worried about these results because I think they were really hoping to do quite well because they know, oh, the two main parties, people aren't interested anymore, and that is always when the Lib Dems do well, right? But they are realised they probably thought, as I was just saying, just like Labour, they probably thought that people who are, you know, far-right racist bigots who vote for Reform, as they like to think we are, actually people who are Lib Dem voters are willing to vote for the Reform Party instead. And so it will be very interesting in, you know, come the next general election to see, do the Lib Dems survive at all? Who will the main parties be? Will it become a two-party system once again, in that we're in a first-past-the-post system? And what will the two main parties be? Will it be Reform and Labour? Will the Tories get anything? There's so much to speculate about now after we've got
certainly
these
I think
results.
once the dust has settled, and it will take a little while for that to be the case. I've just been told by my producer Christian that we're going to get Richard Tyson in a moment to talk about this. Once the dust has settled, I suspect it will be the Tories that have suffered the most. But they've all suffered. I mean, Labour losing this by-election is absolutely massive, I think, for all those people who listen to this show and who watch this show and have been talking about Reform for a very long time. I think it's going to be a very happy day for them. A big start to a bank holiday weekend. Sun's out, you know, legs out, get your arms out, you know, go and sit down, go down a pub, have a couple of pints and celebrate. Because finally, the public have spoken. The people have actually said, this is what we believe in, this is what we want. What you people are doing in this government is an absolute crock of nonsense. Yeah, and we were told time and time again, even from the Reform Party themselves, that the Reform Party would not be able to be very successful in a first-past-the-post system, and the only way that they would be able to make big change
is if they're able to somehow launch a campaign to change our system to a PR system.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's pretty hopeful. That's never going to happen. You're not going to manage to get them to change the system. But they have persisted, and they have proven now that they can, in a first-past-the-post system. You could potentially end up with Nigel Farage in number 10 after the next general election.
Well, again, we've been saying this for a long time on this show. You know, when people have said, could he be the next Prime Minister? Yes, has always been my answer. You know,
but I don't think that Nigel believed that. After the general election, the Reform Party, what they were constantly saying after the general election was, this is the most disproportionate general election result in history, which it was. We need a PR system if we're going to get more than, you know, our small number of 5 seats at the next general election.
Yeah.
But you'll have noticed that they've stopped talking about PR recently. They've given up on that being their strategy to come to power, and they've decided we're just going to tackle the first-past-the-post system, and they've shown that they can be successful. Of course, I can't confirm how they're going to do it the next general election, but this gives us a pretty strong indication that they'll do well.
It really does.